You may not hear in the news all the threats that every individual in this administration gets, but there are many, and there are too many. It is a frightening time in our country, and I wish the rhetoric would just calm down.
The suspect in the attack on the office belonging to the acting U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, Alina Habba, has been taken into custody. Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing that arrest earlier this morning, identifying the bat-wielding suspect as Keith Michael Lisa. For more, we are joined by former Assistant U.S. Attorney General John Yoo and Washington Times Editor-at-Large and Attorney Alex Swoyer. Great to have you both. Professor Yoo, I hear stories like this. It's frightening. It's disturbing. Your reaction to the fact that there has been an arrest made, at least that seems to be some promising news.
I think it's great that the FBI tracked this guy down, and the Justice Department should throw the book at him, because there needs to be a message sent that is unacceptable to attack federal agents, federal law enforcement, courts, and prosecutors. But the bigger problem is that this, unfortunately, is a trend, I think, caused by the far left's extreme rhetoric. We have been living in a period of heightened political violence. It might have started back with the attempt to assassinate Justice Kavanaugh after Dobbs. You saw the assassination attempts on President Trump during the election, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and now you have attacks on high-profile federal prosecutors. So a message needs to be sent by the Justice Department that you cannot attack the federal. Can have debates over policy, win or lose, but it's not acceptable to attack our own government.
I couldn't have said it better. And Alex, as I welcome you into the conversation, it's infuriating because these are people who are public servants and trying to do what they can to make life better for all of us. And you can agree or disagree on the policy, but something's got to give. And the rhetoric, as Professor Yoo just said, really has to be more careful. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think John is extremely spot on here. The DOJ has a responsibility to go after this and throw the book. Hopefully, we're looking at looking for the maximum amount of fine and jail time that this individual could face for both charges that he's looking at here: destruction of federal property, and of course his plan to assault, bring a bat inside towards Alina Habba. Quite dangerous, and I think that. The important point, too, is that this is seeming to come from one side. John just went through how we've looked at a lot of Republicans that have been targeted. I am waiting to see what Democrat lawmaker is going to step up and use their voice to try to tamp this down. It seems like each time we see an assassination attempt or some sort of attack that's thankfully spoiled, we don't have a Democrat stepping up and saying enough is enough, and that needs to happen. And to that final point, there was a poll out earlier this month from Politico, and I was shocked at some of the numbers. It said 55% of Americans believe that we're going to continue to see this political violence increase and expect that a political candidate will be assassinated in the future. That is terrible. You would think after what happened with Charlie Kirk that our country would be winding down from that, but it looks like people expect it to get even worse. And 24% said that sometimes it's justified, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and I'm really, really disturbed by this, and I agree with you both. I really hope they throw the book at this guy who did something so bizarre, frankly. I want to get your opinion, both of you, to weigh in on what's happening with Eric Swalwell. Apparently, there's a mortgage fraud circumstance, and this seems to be percolating a lot on the left. Maybe it's because of who's in office. Obviously, there may be some targeting, and eventually it could happen to lawmakers on the right. But we've seen this play out with Tish James, and now Eric Swalwell, who apparently, Professor Yoo, who represents California, has his primary residence outside of California. He says this is dirty pool by Bill Pulte. I want to get your reaction after this bit of sound from Bill Pulte.
When we're in the majority, we will have subpoena power and accountability will happen. So Bill Pulte and any other lawless official who is carrying out these political prosecutions on behalf of Donald Trump, they should familiarize themselves with the Judiciary Committee room, because they're going to be spending a lot of time there answering questions. And I sure hope everything they did was above board.
So that was Swalwell talking about Bill Pulte. I think the argument easily could be made that if people are looking into you, which happens all the time, to say nothing of his past with an alleged Chinese spy, these things can happen. Professor Yoo.
I didn't know that the representative had amnesia, because is he forgetting 2024?
Exactly.
2023? Democratic prosecutors and attorney generals brought charges against Donald Trump. For the first time in American history, a former president was prosecuted for exactly the same thing, for allegedly misrepresenting facts on mortgage applications, on loans. And now this representative, who was one of the leaders of the charge in that, is complaining because he's being held to the exact same standard. What I did hear him say was a simple answer to a simple question. Did you lie on a federal mortgage application or not? Let's hear the answer to that first before we start casting aspersions on the motives of the prosecutors. Second, this is a bigger part of the lawfare campaign. Unfortunately, I wish we didn't have a country where lawfare was going on, but it started against Donald Trump in an extreme measure to try to drive him off the ballot. Unfortunately, I think the only way to get it to stop, because judges are not going to intervene and stop this, the only way to get it to stop is tit for tat retaliation, and that's exactly what the Justice Department under a Republican president is doing to the prosecutors under the Democratic administration. I hope this will be enough and nobody will do it in the future.
Wrap us up, Alex. 15 seconds.
Well, I just love that Eric Swalwell repeatedly said no one is above the law. And here we have his own words coming back to bite him. One of the other interviews he recently gave, he talked about that he was surprised it took the Trump DOJ so long to come after him. I'm left wondering what else he's hiding. Does he think that maybe there could be more indictments coming on other crimes? But to your point, I think that he's one of 4 that's now facing mortgage fraud allegations from Trump critics. I think that this one is a little different. There's also tax fraud issues, insurance. I will note, I did a little research because I think he plans to run for governor in California. It says that you have to be a resident of California, but it doesn't necessarily talk about where your primary residence has to be. I don't know if they want to look and maybe change that law.
Because he's not technically a best
yes,
I can tell.
That's kind of ironic, right?
Yeah, that is ironic. Alex Swoyer, John Yoo, thank you both for your time this weekend. Have a great one. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.